Today, we have major breaking news about a left-wing media cover-up.
For me, it's about decency, respect, honor. It's just simply wrong. Wrong. It violates every religious principle I have in every way, and every single principle my father taught me.
As we spoke to the president, his Secretary of State was in Israel, his defense secretary was at a NATO meeting on Ukraine. America's oldest president seemed tired from directing all of this, but he was very clear on what he stood for and how his policies, in his view, would see America through.
Well, that was a 2023 Joe Biden interview with CBS host Scott Pelley. Now, Pelley did concede in that clip that Biden was tired, but we are now discovering the raw footage was so much worse than what went to air. Because now former Paramount executive Shari Redstone has revealed why the company settled Trump's lawsuit against CBS News. And shocker, it wasn't because they were being blackmailed by President Donald Trump. It wasn't an attack on democracy, as you have been told repeatedly. It was because if they defended it, the legal case would have exposed what has been described as cherry-picked, raw CBS footage. The New York Times broke this story and they spoke to Redstone and wrote this. Miss Redstone said CBS personnel had told her that in October 2023, when Scott Pelley of 60 Minutes interviewed President Joseph R. Biden Jr., the president had seemed drowsy and had to be prodded to answer. She and Tyler worried that CBS might be accused of editing the interview to conceal Mr. Biden's failings. Joining me to discuss this is Gabriella Power, host of Power Hour, one of the most popular shows that we have here at Sky News. I know you've been covering a lot of these issues on your show, particularly the entire cover-up of Joe Biden's very clear cognitive issues. But this one here is quite interesting to me because all these journalists in the media have been harping on about, well, CBS, they could have won this case.
No.
Turns out they couldn't have won it because if it had got that far, Discovery would have uncovered some really shoddy stuff. You've got this Paramount executive openly telling the Times about it.
Yeah, this is shocking but not at all surprising that CBS essentially rushed to settle with Donald Trump for $16 million because they had more skeletons in the closet. They were part of this Joe Biden cover-up. And even the clip that you played at the start is pretty wild, that you've got the journalist saying, oh, Joe Biden, you did appear a bit tired. Joe Biden had no reason to be tired. Members of his cabinet were overseas. Joe Biden was at home. He was in the White House. He was going to bed at 8 p.m. Whereas right now we've got Donald Trump, who's in the White House making calls to world leaders at all hours, but that's a different story.
Actually talking to journalists.
Actually, exactly. A little bit more transparency finally. But this story that we've heard now from former Paramount executive Shari Redstone, who told the New York Times that this settlement with Donald Trump was a no-brainer. And there were concerns that it wasn't just the Kamala Harris interview from 2024 where CBS edited that interview on 60 Minutes to make Kamala Harris look better, but also that 2023 interview with Joe Biden where they were covering up his failings. And as you said, this was flagged by CBS staff. CBS staff flagged at the time that, oh, look, that Joe Biden appeared very sleepy. He had to be prodded just to answer questions. It is absolutely unbelievable. And this is one of the reasons why many Americans don't trust the mainstream media. The media, CBS, absolutely failed. They failed to be honest with the American people. They tried their best to make Joe Biden look much better than he actually was. And, Sky News was one of the only places that was actually calling this out, that there's a clear cognitive decline of the sitting president. And this cover-up, it's absolutely appalling. But it's interesting, CBS paying Donald Trump $16 million, that's a drop in the ocean.
Well, I never believed that there would be an organisation that's just going to hand over $16 million when there was this line going around that, oh no, they would have won, but it was because of Donald Trump and the blackmailing, and it was a legitimate mainstream line. It's pretty appalling stuff. Moving on, though, now to CNN, and spare a thought for pretty much their only conservative contributor, Scott Jennings, having to deal with this.
The man has solved 6 or 7 conflicts this year. I think we ought to give him some latitude to operate.
Which 6 or 7?
I'm sorry, are you not watching the
Which
news?
6 or 7?
Well, we just did Azerbaijan, we did Rwanda, we did Israel, Iran.
Israel, Iran, what? What peace deal did I miss?
Ended the 12-day war.
I mean, so you 6 or 7. I
Are
mean,
you
that's
living on Earth too?
I mean, no, but Azerbaijan, Rwanda, what? What are we talking about? The fact is we still have a country a world that's on fire. And this is the problem with
Casey.
What are you asking me for, Scott?
I'm asking you to come in here and tell people the truth. Donald Trump has created a track record this year of helping settle several conflicts.
So several is different than 6 or 7. So I was letting Bukhari.
First of all, I will say this.
We did see, Scott, to your point, after naming something after Donald Trump, we saw Azerbaijan, Armenia sit down. That was a remarkable moment. We also, I would say, the Iran situation was solved with force. But
it was, and it's still not solved. There's still no peace deal.
I think we need to bring in a body language expert. What are you asking me to do here? Moderate this?
Tell the truth, not from me. Sorry, I don't think so. No, Scott Jennings is absolutely brilliant. But isn't it wild that you have a CNN commentator that actually has to beg with the host to tell the truth? Because, a lot of Americans see CNN as a fake news outlet, because CNN, of course, is the network that said that Donald Trump had a fall when he was shot in the face at Butler, Pennsylvania. CNN was reporting that the riots in LA, those anti-ICE riots just a couple of months ago, were overwhelmingly peaceful. So it does have that reputation of being a network that does not tell the truth. Also part of the Joe Biden cover-up, just like CBS. But it's wild as well that the other panelists didn't seem to have any idea of the several conflicts that Donald Trump has ended in his second term as president. I don't know how he missed Israel and Iran. I mean, that was a pretty dramatic ending, with Donald Trump actually bombing Iran's nuclear facility, something that presidents had been speaking about for decades.
And de-escalated, no troops on ground, and then no nuclear capability. Pretty impressive. But moving on to MSNBC, the so-called news network, which was pushing the line that the Trump-Putin meeting was worse than Biden's botched Afghan withdrawal. Now, a refresher before we watch this grab. The withdrawal led to 13 American service members being murdered, along with 170 civilians.
All Trump wanted is a ceasefire, and Putin showed him middle finger. It was predictable disaster, and whatever Trump says now, he can't hide it. Amazingly, he now agrees with Putin, and he repeats this nonsense that the peace deal is better than a ceasefire. If you are serious about peace, you start with a ceasefire. Everyone knows that. And now Trump will try to put the blame on anyone, on Zelensky, on Europeans, or Democrats, on Biden, again, avoiding responsibility for the disaster that was self-made. I believe that the humiliation for the United States, the loss of credibility and reputation yesterday in Alaska was much worse than the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Well, what do you make of that?
It's just rubbish commentary from MSNBC that clearly have this anti-Trump agenda. And it wasn't just MSNBC. We saw multiple left-wing news outlets criticising Donald Trump for meeting with Putin. Vladimir Putin went to Alaska, and look, there are a lot of concerns that Donald Trump rolled out the red carpet for him, but Donald Trump also showed off the US's military strength. We had B-2 bombers flying over, and although we can't trust, Vladimir Putin, this is Donald Trump engaging with him, trying to bring...
You have to talk to people.
Absolutely.
It de-escalates.
Absolutely. And just 2 days later, he hosted Zelensky and European world leaders at the White House in a show of kind of unity for Ukraine, and engaging with world leaders. So, look, I think this narrative from some of the left-wing networks that Donald Trump is just praising Putin or it is just ridiculous. And also, this war started under Joe Biden, and I think some of the people on MSNBC seem to forget that.
Yeah, well said. And of course, CNN's Abby Phillip was offering some extremely balanced analysis around these Putin meetings.
I think it's extraordinary that this is even happening. I mean, think about the fact that you have a phalanx of European leaders getting on planes at a moment's notice to flock to Washington to give Zelensky backup in this meeting with Trump. That's a level of concern that I think some people say hasn't been demonstrated since 9/11. And it reflects a deep worry about Trump's decision-making and his need to be surrounded by a certain point of view in order to come to what they view as the right conclusion. So So I think that alone, I mean, says a lot.
You can see her attempting to kind of do these gymnastics mentally to try and come up with a way that it's bad that all these people went there and he hosted them. I don't quite understand the 9/11 reference.
Oh my gosh, absolutely
These people
insane.
are professional journalists. It's wild.
Isn't it wild? And making a statement as significant as that, comparing it to the worst terror attack on American soil, that's absolutely crazy. It's interesting watching Donald Trump invite world leaders to the White House, hosting them all, and then looking at what many of them had to say. We heard from Keir Starmer thanking Donald Trump. We heard from Finland's President Alex Stubb also thanking President Trump, saying that he has made more progress in the past 2 weeks in bringing the Russia-Ukraine war to an end than what we've seen in 3.5
obviously.
years. Absolutely. Donald Trump invited them there. They didn't invite themselves there. And look, I kind of understand a perspective of maybe, look, the world leaders might be watching carefully to see if there's a showdown between Zelensky and Trump like there was in February.
Yeah, if he attacks his clothing again.
Yes, but we've moved on from that. And it's interesting, even looking at that coverage back in February, I watched the entire 45-minute press conference between Trump, Zelensky and JD Vance. And Trump, for the first half an hour, was praising Zelensky, calling him a hero, saying everything right. And it was only towards the end, when Zelensky was appearing ungrateful, that then we had the big blow up, which was, of course, entertaining to watch. But look, Donald Trump wants to see this war be brought to an end. He wants to get it done quickly. He also told Fox News just a couple of days ago that he had to remind the world leaders there that who wanted to have a meeting a month later, no, we don't have that much time. We've got to get this done as quickly as possible. So he was on the phone to Putin again just hours after world leaders left. He's getting things done. Look, I think at this point we can just pray for peace, but that is just some outrageous commentary from Abby Phillip.
It's almost as if people want him to fail.
Absolutely.
And that's the disturbing thing.
They couldn't wait. As soon as there was that meeting between Trump and Putin, I think there were so many reporters that were just so ready to declare this a failure because Donald Trump wasn't able to get an immediate ceasefire. He acknowledged that that's what he did want to get when he went into that meeting, and now he's going to go hopefully for a long-lasting peace deal. Look, we hope we can get that, but so many people were just rooting for him to fail, as Caroline Levitt pointed out this week at the White House.
Yep.